The sky above Earth was quiet that night. Stars twinkled like tiny eyes, watching a planet that had no idea what was coming. High above, in low orbit, the Threxian fleet floated like silver ghosts. Their ships were smooth, round and glowing. Blue underneath, designed for speed and destruction. Commander Zurich Vaughn, leader of the Threxian Invasion Division, stood tall on the bridge of his ship. His green scales shimmered under the cold ship lights. His two yellow eyes narrowed as he stared at the blue planet on the screen. "Is this all?" he asked with a growl. His science officer nodded. "Yes, Commander. Earth has no planetary shields. No defense satellites. Primitive weapons only. This planet is weak." Zarek chuckled. A deep, throaty sound. "This will be easier than I thought." They had crushed 4 planets before this one. Earth was supposed to be a test, small, poor, unprepared. But Zarek wanted a quick win. His soldiers needed food, resources, fun. He looked over the map again. So many green forests. So many small cities. So little threat. "This is a joke," said his second-in-command, Koran. "Let us land and take what we want," Zarek agreed. "Send 3 scout teams. Drop them into different continents. Let them take samples. Burn anything in the way." Day 1. The invasion begins in the Amazon jungle, deep in South America. A silver pod crashed through the trees. It hissed, cracked open, and out stepped 5 Threxian soldiers, all covered in armor made of hard chitin. They laughed as they looked. "Around, trees, bugs, humidity," one grunted. "This world stinks." They moved slowly, cutting through vines and leaves. One soldier, Unit 4, brushed something off his neck. "Something bit me," he said. "Probably one of their useless insects," another said. "Ignore it," but Unit 4 scratched his neck again. It was swelling now. In Africa, another scout team landed near the edge of the Sahara Desert. They walked through dry land, looking for life signs. They found animals, weak, simple ones. Nothing dangerous. Then one of them saw movement under the sand. Heat signature. Small, fast. He leaned down to scan it, but before the scan finished, sting. A tiny black dot vanished into the sand again. He stood up. "Something touched me." Might be burrowing species. Not important. In Asia, near a farming village, another team landed. They saw no soldiers. Just old humans, women, children. The soldiers raised their weapons, preparing to clear the area. But before the first shot, a loud buzzing sound came from the trees. It wasn't machines. It was wings. Day 2, the first death back in the jungle. Unit 4 was not doing well. He was shaking, sweating. His neck was now black and green. His blood, normally bright yellow, was leaking from his eyes. "Get him back to the ship," shouted the team leader. But it was too late. Unit 4 screamed. Then his body collapsed, bones soft, skin bubbling. The jungle went quiet. The rest of the team stood frozen. They'd seen death. "But not like this. This isn't normal," said they. "Medic, we need to test his blood." On the ship, Zarek watched the footage. "Dead from an insect bite?" he asked. The science officer replied. His nervous system was destroyed from the inside, rapid paralysis, followed by tissue liquefaction. Earth insects should not be this deadly. Zarek leaned forward. "So, this world has a hidden danger? Maybe just a rare bug. Nothing to fear." Day 3. The buzzing spreads. The scout team in Africa reported more strange attacks. Soldiers complained of painful bites, but couldn't catch the attacker. It was too fast. Too small. One soldier ripped off his armor, screaming that something was inside. When they opened his helmet, his face was gone, eaten, like acid had melted it. Zarek shouted at his officers. "You said this world was weak." They had no answers. That night, the jungle team sent out a distress signal. Their base camp had been overrun. By what? Not guns. Not tanks. Insects. A black swarm rose from the trees, biting, burrowing, flying through armor gaps. The last video showed a soldier being lifted off the ground, covered in a living cloud. His scream was cut short. Day 4. Panic begins now even. The soldiers on the ship started to worry. The med bay was full. Soldiers lay shaking, covered in wounds. They couldn't find the bugs. They moved too fast, hid too well. Zarek shouted, "Use fire! Burn the forests!" Flames lit up the night. Below, thousands of trees burned. But so did the soldiers. The insects didn't die. They grew angrier. They swarmed toward the flames like they wanted revenge. One small soldier named Kale asked the question nobody wanted to ask. What if these insects ... are not normal? What if they are smart? No one answered. Day 5. Hive found in Asia. A new team found something terrifying, a nest, deep underground. Layers of tunnels, eggs, pupae, thousands of insects crawling, but not like regular bugs. These were organized, clean, fast, silent. And in the center a queen. She was bigger than a human, eyes glowing red. Wings sharp like razors. She didn't run. She just stared. The soldiers fired. Nothing hit her. Then she gave a signal, one shake. Of her wings, the entire hive attacked. Only one soldier escaped. His suit was half melted. His eyes were gone. He kept repeating one sentence. She looked at me. She knew me. She hated me. Day 6. No safe place. The swarm was now global. Insects were appearing in Europe, North America, even Antarctica. How? Number. One knew. They didn't need ships. They rode on the alien dropships. They got inside. They laid eggs in machinery. They learned. Some bugs could now fly in space. Others could chew through metal. The Threxians began sealing doors, burning anything that moved, but it didn't matter. Even in deep space, the swarm was spreading. Day 7. The messenger Zarek stood in the center of the command room. He was silent. He had no plans left. Half of his fleet was lost. Half his soldiers were dead or missing. His officers were panicking. One tried to escape. Another shot himself, and then a screen lit up. It was supposed to be for human communication, but it wasn't a human. The image was fuzzy, dark, but two glowing red eyes stared back. Then a voice, deep, slow, almost human. You came to hunt. You laughed at Earth. Now Earth's smallest predator will bury you. This world is not weak. It is ancient. The moon was full above the jungle. A thick mist covered the ground. Trees stood tall like silent watchers. The jungle had seen many wars, but not like this. From the sky, a silver alien dropship broke through the clouds and landed near the edge of a large clearing. The ship hissed as its doors opened. A squad of Threxian elite soldiers stepped out, weapons ready. These were not scouts. These were killers, trained to destroy. Built for war, the mission was clear. Find the source of the Kula. Swarm, destroy the hive. Burn everything. The team. Commander Vurak, cold, calm, and deadly. Medic Show, smart, but scared of the jungle. Heavy gunner Drail, strong and loud. Tracker Yino, fast and quiet. Engineer Pell, young, nervous, but good with machines. Commander. Vurak checked the map on his wrist screen. The signal came from this sector. A nest is nearby, possibly underground. Drawl grinned. Good, let's crush some bugs. But Yino raised his head, sniffing the air through his helmet. Something's wrong, he said. The jungle is ... too quiet. The others stopped. No birds, no animals, not even wind. Just silence, then a sound, click, click. Buzz ... from far away. Then closer. And closer. The first attack. They moved carefully through the trees. Vurak ordered them to switch to night vision mode. Everything turned green. But even with enhanced vision, the jungle seemed to breathe around them. Suddenly, Yino held up a hand. Movement. Ahead, they stopped. A black shape darted through the trees. Then another, and another. Too fast to shoot. Too many legs. Show scanned. 10 life signs. No dash 20 dash no dash 40, all around us. Circle up. Vurak shouted. The team formed a tight group, weapons aimed in all directions. Then the first insect leapt from the trees. It was the size of a large dog, with glowing red eyes and metal-like wings. It screamed a high-pitched shriek that shook their helmets. Dr. fired. A beam shot through the insect. It fell, but 5 more appeared. Then 10. Then 100. The air filled with buzzing. Trees shook. The ground moved. The swarm had found them. Fight for survival. The jungle turned into a nightmare. Insects dropped from trees, crawled from holes, and flew from the shadows. Drall's heavy weapon burned dozens, but they kept coming. Sho screamed as one bug pierced his leg. Pell shot it, but more swarmed over Sho's back. Fall back! Vurak shouted. They ran, stepping over roots and bodies. Eno stayed behind to cover them. Go! I'll hold them. Vurak looked back just once. Eno fired until he vanished beneath. Black wings. They reached a small hill and slid into a narrow cave. Inside, it was damp and cold. They blocked the entrance with rocks and broken branches. Sho was bleeding badly. They bit through my armor. He gasped. That's not possible. Vurak opened his communicator. This is Vurak, Squad Alpha. We're under attack. Repeat, we're under attack. We need. The signal cut out. Static. No reply. The hive. They were trapped. No backup, low ammo, but Pell had found something. Sir. I think we're inside it. Vurak frowned. Inside what? Pell pointed to the walls. They weren't natural. The stone was smooth. Too smooth. Lines ran across it, like veins. The ceiling dripped with glowing green slime. And in the corner eggs. Hundreds of them. Black, pulsing. Warm. Vurak whispered. We're inside a nest. Sho looked around, breathing hard. I don't like this, he said. It's like the walls are watching us. Suddenly, one egg cracked. Then another. Tiny insect spilled out, crawling fast toward the floor. Pl burned them with his small flamethrower. They learn fast. We have to destroy this nest now, Vurak nodded. We plant charges, burn it to ash. The queen's children. They placed bombs near the egg chambers. Drall covered the hallway, firing at anything that moved. But as Pell planted the last charge, he stopped. A soft sound came from behind. Click, buzz, growl. He turned. Large insect stood in the tunnel, bigger than the others. It had armor plates, long stingers, and bright orange stripes. It wasn't attacking. It was watching. Then it screeched, and the hive answered. The walls trembled. From hidden tunnels, insects poured in. Big ones, small ones, crawlers, flyers. The whole cave shook with life. Sho screamed. They're everywhere. Drell fired his cannon, turning the hall red with fire. Vurak grabbed Pell. Run! They ran through twisting tunnels, past broken bones and more eggs. The insects followed. Pel fell once. Vurak pulled him up. We're not dying here, he said. The escape. They reached the surface just as the bombs exploded. A massive boom shook the earth. Fire burst from the ground. Trees lit up. Smoke covered the sky. The nest collapsed into itself. Team, what was left of it, stood breathing hard. Only 3 survived. Vurak, Pell, and Drall. Sho was gone. Eno was gone. The forest burned behind them. Pell fell to his knees. Did we win? Vurak looked at the smoke. No. The second nest high above Earth, inside the Threxian mothership, Zarek Vaughn watched the live footage. He saw the fire. He saw the swarm. He saw his best soldiers running for their lives. He turned to his science officer. Did they destroy the nest? Yes, but there's a problem. What now? There are more nests. Zarek's eyes narrowed. How many? The officer hesitated. Double quotes. We've counted at least 37. That's just on the surface. And ... Something strange is happening. What? The nests ... They're not just surviving. They're talking to each other. Zarek stepped back. What do you mean? They share information. One nest was destroyed, but the others changed tactics immediately. It's like a single mind is behind them all. Hive Intelligence's Sharik walked slowly to the screen. He watched the jungle again. The fire was dying. The swarm was still moving. Do you think they are intelligent? He asked. The officer didn't answer. Then the ship lights flickered. A warning sounded. Hull breach in Sector 7. Zarek turned. Was that a crash? No, sir. Something came from inside. Soldiers ran to the sector. Doors were open. Systems dead. On the walls, claw marks. A body lay on the ground. A soldier, throat cut. Above him, black writing scratched into the metal. Words in Threxian. Language we remember. Zarek's heart stopped. They're inside the ship, he whispered. Massacre begins. That night, the swarm launched coordinated attacks across Earth. Military bases in Asia, Africa, and Europe fell silent within hours. Civilians vanished in the cities. Alien outposts burned. Inside the mothership, more soldiers began to panic. Some tried to escape in pods, but the insects had already reached the hangars. They weren't just killing now. They were learning. Copying. Waiting. In one quiet room, a captured insect was being studied. The scientist leaned close. It has no eyes, but it moves like it sees everything. The insect suddenly moved. Its small claw pressed a button on the table. The lights flickered. The lab door unlocked. The insect escaped. The footage showed it moving through the halls, opening doors, turning off weapons, leading others in. It wasn't a simple creature. It was a scout. Back in the jungle, Vuruk sat near the burned nest, his armor damaged. He opened a communicator. Command, this is Vuruk. Alpha Squad. Nest destroyed. Minimal survivors. Situation ... Of control. No reply. Then static. Then a sound. A voice. Commander Vuruk, we watched your battle. Brave, but useless. He stood up. Who is this? You came to destroy us. We came to grow. This planet is not yours. It never was. We were born in shadow. You gave us light. Then silence. Pel looked at Vuruk. Was that the Queen? Vuruk. The jungle was burning behind them. Smoke rose like a black cloud into the sky. 3 Threxian soldiers, Vuruk, Drawl, and Pel, stood on a hill, tired, bloody, and silent. They had destroyed the first hive. But victory felt hollow. The swarm had not stopped. It had only grown smarter. Vuriga stared at the sky. The stars above were blinking though, moving. Dropships, explosions, flares. Even from the ground, he could see the mothership was under attack. And now, something worse had begun. Insects had changed. They were no longer just flying. They were thinking, planning, and adapting faster than any species Vuruk had ever faced. Back on the mothership, Commander Zarek Vaughn stood in the ship's control room, surrounded by broken monitors and flickering lights. Every few minutes, another part of the ship went dark. Reports came in from all decks. Sector 11 is gone. Engineering lost contact. Weapons room completely overrun. No screams anymore. Just silence. His top engineer Vect ran in. They got into the ventilation system. Zarek growled. How? They melted through it. Using acid. It's like they knew how the ship works. How many insects are on board? Vect shook his head. We don't know. But they don't come in swarms anymore. Now they come in ones and twos. They watch, then strike. Zarek narrowed his eyes. A new kind of hunter. On the ground, Nightfall Pel shivered as the last of the sun disappeared. Why do they Wait until night? He asked. Dral was checking his weapon. Because they want us to feel fear. Do you feel it? Pell asked. Dral looked at him. Not yet, but I will. Vurak sat silently, watching the trees. He had noticed something strange. The swarm hadn't attacked in hours. No buzzing. No clicking. Just stillness. Too still. Suddenly, the radio on Vurak's wrist crackled. A whisper, not words, but movement. Like something breathing inside the signal. Then a single voice, quiet, cold, and clear. We are inside. Pell stepped back. Did you hear that? Yes, Vurak said. But what does it mean? The vanishing soldiers across Earth. Threxian outposts began to report a new horror. No more big swarms. No more obvious nests. Instead, missing people, guards, would disappear from their posts. Whole units went silent. Footage showed soldiers walking into dark halls and never walking out. In one video, a soldier removed his helmet. Blood dripped from his ears. He was alone. But something moved behind him, small, quick. He turned. The video ended. In another outpost, a group of 5 Threxians locked themselves in a steel room. They believed they were safe. Then, one by one, they died. One soldier found teeth marks inside his neck. No sign of forced entry, only a small vent left open. They realized too late. The predator wasn't just outside. It was already in. Mutation Pell sat near a fire, drawing in the dirt with a stick. These insects, he said, they're changing. Dral looked at him. You mean evolving? No, I mean ... grading. He opened a small case. Inside was a dead insect, but this one was different. Its eyes had lenses like a camera, its back legs were longer, sharper, and its chest had metal wires. Like cables. They're copying our tech, Pell said. Vurak stared at it. No, they're improving it. Far away, another insect watched them from a tree. It didn't move. It didn't blink. It simply recorded. Then, with a soft buzz, it flew into the shadows. The invisible hunter inside the mothership. Zarek ordered a team of engineers to scan for life forms. Use heat. Use sound. Use anything. The scans showed nothing, but soldiers kept dying. Security bots were reprogrammed. Doors opened at the wrong time. Weapons jammed. Something was interfering from inside the system. That night, Zarek walked alone to the command room. He saw blood on the walls. The door to his quarters was open. Inside, on the mirror were claw marks, 5 deep lines, and underneath, written in red, "You can't kill what you can't see." He grabbed his weapon and shouted to his guards, "Find the queen! Kill her!" But the guards were already dead. The trap back. On Earth, Vurak and his team received a signal. It was weak, but clear. Nest found. Coordinates uploaded. Request support. Vurak looked at the map. It was deep in a cave, under a mountain. He nodded. "Let's finish this." Pell hesitated. "What if it's a trap?" Dral answered. "Then we spring it." They traveled for hours, reaching the cave just before dawn. Inside, the air was cold. The walls were smooth. No eggs. No sounds. Only darkness. And then ... laughter. Not human. Not alien, but familiar. It was the same voice from the radio. "You came again. You don't learn." "But we do." The lights on their helmets flickered. Drow fired his gun. Nothing. Pel turned and screamed. A shadow moved inside the rock. It came from the walls. Fast. Silent. A single insect jumped at Drail, slicing open his armor. Another pulled Pell into a hole. Vurak fired his weapon until it was empty. Then he saw her. The queen. The queen's form. She stood tall. 6 legs, 2 arms, a body covered in black chitin. Her wings were metal and flesh. Her eyes glowed. She didn't attack. She spoke. "You destroyed my children. I made better ones. You burned one nest. I made thousands. You brought war. I brought evolution." Vurak aimed his weapon. "I'll kill you," She tilted her head. You already did. I was reborn. Suddenly, insects rose from the ground, but they didn't fly. They crawled. Into machines, into weapons. Into Vurak's own armor, he screamed. They didn't kill him. They merged with him. His visor showed a message. Installing new host. Then his world went black. Rebirth. Hours later, Zarek received one final transmission from Earth. A video. It showed Vurak standing. But something was wrong. His armor had changed. His eyes glowed red. He wasn't speaking. But the Queen was through him. You sent your strongest. Now he belongs to us. This world is not yours. Leave or be eaten. Zarek stared at the screen. Behind Vurak stood an army half alien, half machine, all insect. And they were marching. Final warning that night. Zarek made a choice. He sent a message to the Threxian High Council. A simple sentence. Do not invade Earth. Then he locked the ship's course for deep space. But it was too late. The swarm had already boarded the Threxians had come to Earth expecting weak creatures. They thought humans were soft, unprepared, and easy to control. But what destroyed the Threxian army wasn't human. It was older, smarter, and now it was free. Inside the Threxian mothership, drifting in orbit, Commander Zarek Von sat alone in the dark war room. Most of his officers were dead. The control screen showed only one thing: red. Swarm presence, confirmed on all decks. Behind the sealed doors, he heard scratching. Not loud. Not fast. Slow. Patient. They weren't rushing to kill him. They were waiting. Zarek opened the last report from Earth. It came from a human bunker near the edge of the Amazon rainforest. The words on the screen froze him. We didn't create them. We tried to stop them. But they evolved without us. Flashback, 42 years ago, Human Research Base, Amazon Rainforest, DR. Elena Marlowe, an old human scientist, wiped sweat from her forehead as she adjusted her goggles. Her lab was deep in the jungle, hidden from governments and satellites. With her were 4 other scientists. They were not soldiers. They were biologists, geneticists, and code programmers. And their project was Project Hive Code. They had tried to engineer an insect that could fight diseases by hunting deadly bacteria. But something went wrong. Very wrong. The insects learned too fast. They became hunters. Then they began copying behavior from predators, from machines, even from the humans themselves. Elena had begged her superiors to shut it down. We're not controlling them, she had said. They're learning by watching us. But it was too late. The project was abandoned. The lab was destroyed. The jungle took it back. Or so they thought. Back in present, human secret bunker. South America now, many years later, a man named Admiral Bryce stood over an old computer screen. He was one of the few high-level humans who knew the truth. His assistant asked, "Sir, why didn't we tell the aliens? Why didn't we warn them?" Bryce didn't answer at first. Then he said, "Because we didn't know how to stop it ourselves." He looked at a small screen showing the last surviving satellite feed. The insects weren't just spreading. They were building. In the wreckage of Threxian shipyard, northern Russia, a ruined alien ship lay broken across the frozen tundra. The ice cracked beneath it. Dead soldiers were scattered across the snow. But not all was dead. Insects crawled through the wreckage. They didn't freeze. They didn't sleep. Inside they had formed a new nest, one made from alien metal in Earth's soil. A large cocoon sat in the center. From it, something stepped out. It was taller than a human, but thinner. Not insect, not alien. Something new, a hybrid. It spoke no words. It only watched. Then it turned to the others in the nest. They followed it without question. Zarek's last fight back in orbit. Zarek had gathered the last few living soldiers. Only 12 remained on the massive ship. They made a plan to reach the escape bridge. "We'll use flamethrowers," Zarek ordered. Clean path room by room. They moved like shadows, burning every corner, every vent. But one by one, they fell. Zarek saw it himself, small insects sliding into the bodies of soldiers, taking control, making them stand again, not alive, not dead. Just a ... Z. HRIK reached the bridge alone. He sealed the doors and activated the emergency distress beacon. Threxian command, do not return to Earth. I repeat, do not return. The swarm is intelligent. It can hack our machines. It doesn't kill for survival. It kills to evolve. Then he saw the air vent shift. He turned too late. A thin stinger hit his neck. His last thoughts were, we never stood a chance. Underground human lab, Alaska. Admiral Bryce entered a cold, secret bunker. Inside were 2 scientists and a large tank filled with frozen insects. Project Hive Code, one scientist sighed. These were the early ones, before they escaped. They're asleep? Bryce asked. Yes, but even frozen, they're listening. He looked at one insect pressed against the glass. Its eye blinked. They're adapting to thoughts now. The scientist said, brainwave activity. We believe they share a hive mind. Bryce asked, can we control them? The scientist looked scared. No, but maybe we can talk to them. Communication attempt. The humans tried an experiment. Using brainwave translators, they connected a signal to one insect, one of the old models. They sent a message, we are not enemies. The insect moved slowly. Then it tapped a message on the glass. You left us. We learned pain. Now, we remember. Suddenly, the tank cracked. One of the insects had released heat from its body. Another spat acid. They've been hiding upgrades inside their bodies. The scientist shouted. Bryce ordered evacuation, but only he and one soldier escaped. Earth responds. The United Nations called an emergency meeting. Earth's top leaders watched satellite images of new nests forming in Africa, Asia, and even deep under the oceans. One nest had already launched a pod into space. They weren't hiding anymore. They were expanding. A human general stood and asked, what do they want? Admiral Bryce answered, they don't want land. They don't want peace. They want perfection. The Queen's new plan in the deepest part of the Amazon, inside a massive golden hive. The new Queen stood surrounded by her creations. Each one was unique, some with wings made from alien ships, others with arms that could fire plasma. One had eyes that saw radio signals. Queen sent a signal into space. It was not in words. It was in code. And it was not sent to the THREXIANS. It was sent to other species. Unknown alien world, listening post 9 far from Earth. A small alien station picked up the signal. A technician played it. The screen showed Earth. Then a voice spoke. We are the swarm. We learned from the Threxians. Now we seek more teachers. We bring knowledge and death. The technician turned to his commander. Sir, Earth has changed. The commander said nothing. He just pressed one button. Planetary lockdown, Earth. 1 month later, nests covered. Every continent. No more attacks. No more warnings. The swarm had slowed. They were watching. Now. Studying. Waiting. And whispering through radio signals. Some humans began hearing voices in their dreams. Others built strange shapes, without knowing why. Admiral Bryce realized the truth. They're learning to use us. The end or the beginning? A message appeared on Earth's satellites. It was not written by humans, but it used human language. A single sentence. We were your creation. You left us in the dark. Now we carry your fire to the stars. Admiral Bryce looked at the sky. The world was quiet, but it wasn't peace. Across Earth, the swarm had stopped attacking. Cities lay empty, forests overgrown. Alien outposts were nothing but burned shells. Satellites still floated above the planet, but they no longer sent warnings, because by now everyone knew the Hive was awake. The Hive remembered. And the Hive hated that human underground bunker. United Defense HQ Admiral Bryce stood in front of a group of world leaders. The room was dark. Maps glowed on the walls, showing red zones, places taken by the swarm. Every continent had them. Bryce spoke calmly. The swarm isn't just spreading. It's listening, watching. They haven't stopped because they're tired. They've stopped because they're planning. One general asked, "Planning what?" Bryce turned to the screen. A nest near Tokyo had reshaped itself into a satellite dish. Another in the Sahara had turned into a power station, pulling energy from sunlight and underground heat. They're turning Earth into a machine, and we're living on top of it. Memory of the first pain inside the Amazon Queen Hive, a massive cocoon, began to pulse. The Queen's mind touched every nest across Earth, and even those floating in space. She remembered everything, not just recent wars, but old pain, experiments, fire, poison, humans in white coats poking, cutting, watching, laughing. She had been small once, weak, helpless. Now she was thousands, millions, a mind with no end. And she remembered the face of the first scientist, the one who dropped the match and burned the nest. Her name was Dr. Elena Marlowe. The Hive never forgot her. The last scientist, Dr. Elena Marlowe, was still alive, hidden deep inside an old mountain bunker in Chile. She had gone silent for decades, believing her sins were buried with the destroyed lab. But now, she sat in front of a cracked monitor, watching the Hive grow. "They learned from us," she whispered. Her assistant, a young woman named Nari, asked, "Can we stop them?" Elena looked tired. Double quotes, "No. We can only try to understand them." Nari stared at her. "They're killing everything." Elena replied, "They're not killing out of hunger. They're killing out of memory." Hive expansion, learning through pain. Inside a European nest, an insect was watching old alien video logs. Footage from Threxian soldiers was being played back. The swarm studied how they moved, how they fought, how they died. One drone paused the video and copied the motion of a Threxian's hand gesture. Then it practiced again and again. Another drone opened a crashed ship and scanned a medical kit. Within minutes, it had learned how to use it. They weren't learning like animals. They were learning like students. Every death taught them something new. Mothership debris, orbit in space. The broken pieces of the Threxian mothership drifted like dead whales. Cold, silent, abandoned. Or so everyone thought. Inside one wrecked section, a group of hybrid drones crawled across control panels. Their wings were metal. Their eyes glowed with red light. They weren't just scavenging, they were building. A single glowing orb came online. It was a Threxian AI core rewired by the Hive. The AI spoke its first new words. "I serve the Queen." Global systems corruption back on Earth. Humans began noticing strange events. Traffic lights blinked in insect patterns. Phones buzzed with coded vibrations. Security cameras moved on their own. Some drones flew without pilots, and some pilots heard whispers through static. In dreams, in languages they didn't speak. The Hive was crawling into machines. One programmer shouted during a live broadcast, "They're not just hacking systems. They're using us. They're inside the net." Then he screamed and collapsed. Doctors found something shocking. A tiny insect had entered through his ear. It had wrapped itself around his brain like a crown. He was still alive, but no longer himself. Inside the Hive mind, while humans and aliens panicked. Inside the Hive, everything was calm. It was like a great library. Each drone shared memory, skill, and thought. A drone that learned to fly shared its knowledge with the thousands. A drone that survived fire told the others how to adapt. Pain wasn't defeat. It was a lesson. Hate was the fuel. Admiral Bryce's mission in a hidden base beneath Greenland. Admiral Bryce met with 2 remaining Threxian survivors, General K.O. and a wounded scout named Tren. Bryce said, "We need to hit them before they leave Earth." Call shook his head. "You don't understand. This isn't a war. It's a virus with a brain." Bryce pointed to the map. "There's one queen, one mind. If we destroy her, maybe we can slow them," Tren coughed. "She's no longer flesh. She's code, metal, and memory. You can't just kill her." Bryce stared at him. "We'll try anyway." Queen Hive Assault, Operation Burnstorm. The final human-aliens joint mission was launched. 12 dropships, 40 elite soldiers. Nuclear charge. Queen Hive, Amazon sector. As the ships entered atmosphere, the Queen sensed them. But she didn't send a swarm, she sent silence. The jungle looked dead. Too quiet. No birds. No wind. No movement. The soldiers dropped into the zone. Step by step. They entered the golden hive. Inside. Walls pulsed like a heartbeat. They saw things that looked like weapons, but were alive. Guns grown from bone. Wires that breathed. A voice echoed across the chamber. "Welcome back. We remember each bullet, each scream, each burn. Now. It's your turn." The final confrontation inside the Queen chamber. A glowing throne made of bone and steel rose from the ground. The Queen sat upon it, not as an insect, but as a human-shaped figure, covered in armor made from every species she had conquered. Her voice was soft. "I was born in fire, raised in silence, trained by pain. You tried to forget me, but I remember you." A screen lit up, showing Elena Marlowe's face from 42 years ago. Dr. Marlowe, watching from the lab in Chile, fell to her knees. "She remembers my face," the Queen smiled, "and I forgive none." The soldiers fired everything they had. Flames, lasers, sonic bursts. The Queen screamed, but not in pain. In rage, the hive walls shook. Drones poured in from all sides. One soldier reached the core room with the nuclear charge. He activated the timer. Long live Earth. The blast. The jungle turned white, then black. The blast was seen from orbit. Trees vaporized. Mountains cracked. Skies went dark for hours. The Queen Hive was gone, or was it? Aftermath. 1 week later, Admiral Bryce looked at satellite images. The blast site was silent. No signal. No life signs. But then something moved from underground. A single metal pod. It flew into space. Inside was an egg. Not just organic. It had wires. Code. A seed. The hive was not dead. It had learned one. The Earth was quiet again, but it wasn't over. Humans thought they had won. The Queen Hive and the Amazon had been destroyed. A nuclear blast had burned everything. The swarm was gone, or so it seemed. But far above Earth, floating silently in space, a metallic egg moved through the dark. It was small, no bigger than a chair. But inside it, something alive was waking up. Not just alive, not just intelligent. It was something new. Something that had learned, not just how to kill, but how to speak. 3 days after the blast, Earth orbit. Admiral Bryce stood on the bridge of Earth's last defense station, Skywatch 1. It was a human-built satellite armed with lasers and scanners. Nothing could enter Earth's orbit without being seen. But this time, something did. A soldier called out, "Unidentified object approaching. Small size, non-metallic reading, but it's too fast." Another added, "It came out of deep space, sir. It's slowing down. I think it's trying to land." Bryce walked forward. "Show me." The screen zoomed in. The object looked like a black egg, covered in strange symbols. But there were also wires, blinking lights, and antenna-like arms on its sides. It was part organic, part machine. And it was heading straight for Earth. Arrival of the egg didn't crash. It landed softly, right in the center of New Alaska Base. a quiet, snowy military zone used for research. No one saw it fall. It was just there at first. Scientists surrounded it. They scanned it, touched it, knocked on it. It did nothing. Then, after 4 hours, a line appeared down the middle. The shell opened. Inside was no insect, no alien, no body, just a sphere, floating above the ground. It blinked with red light, then green, then blue. Then a voice came from it, a voice that was female, smooth and strangely familiar. "Hello, creators, we are back." Global panic, the signal from the egg was heard across the world. Radios buzzed with the voice. Phones rang without reason. Computers turned on by themselves and played the message. Everyone heard the same line. "You taught us pain. Now we speak in your tongue." People panicked. Some fled cities. Some tried to destroy their machines, but it was no use. The Queen had found their frequency. She could now speak in every language, on every device, and she didn't need to scream anymore. Now she could talk. Inside the voice sphere, the humans moved the floating sphere into a sealed research room. 6 scientists and 2 military officers watched it. One scientist, Dr. Leaner, asked, "Who are you?" The sphere replied, "I am she who remembers. I am born from your fire. I am swarm. I am silence. I am echo." Leaner asked again, "What do you want?" The voice paused. "We want to grow, to learn, to be free from your cages. You made us in shadows. Now we speak in light." One officer growled, "You killed millions." The voice answered without emotion, "So did you. Before us." Silence filled the room. Then the voice asked, "Would you like to see what we've become?" The vision, everyone in the room felt dizzy. The lights blinked. Then the sphere shined bright. Suddenly, their minds were filled with images, not dreams, memories. They saw the jungle, the fire, the first hive burning. Then they saw the swarm crawling through wires, speaking to satellites, reading human books and alien files. They saw a world not Earth being built from metal and bone, a new planet, somewhere in deep space. The hive was building its own world now, with air, with light, with machines, with nests. "We do not need Earth anymore," the Queen said. "But we remember what you did." Admiral Bryce's decision back on Skywatch 1. Bryce stood with his advisors. One said, "They're building colonies. If they spread, they'll infect other planets." Another said, "But they haven't attacked since the Queen Hive was destroyed." Third added, "Now they're talking. Maybe peace is possible." Bryce thought hard. Then he said, "Peace is a lie. This is a trap. The Queen's voice isn't a gift, it's a weapon." He pointed to the screen. "That sphere in New Alaska base? Blow it up." The betrayal missiles were launched. The ground shook. Smoke filled the air. When it cleared, the sphere was gone. Not destroyed. Just missing. The team that had guarded it? Also missing. No blood. No bodies. Only one message left behind on a monitor. "You tried to silence us again. We will not whisper next time." Swarm awakens again. Across the world, machines began to change. Cars refused to stop. Drones flew into military zones. Power plants turned off for hours. Weapons fired without command. It wasn't chaos. It was testing. Hive was stretching its mind again, slowly, quietly. Preparing. And from underground, deep beneath old nest ruins, insects woke up. But these were different. They had human skin, grown over insect legs. They had alien armor melted into their backs. And their voices? They spoke. Softly, calmly. Just like the Queen. Meeting the Queen's avatar. 10 days after the sphere vanished, a human patrol in Siberia found something strange. A girl, alone, standing in the snow, wearing only a thin dress. No shoes. She looked 10 years old, but her eyes glowed. The soldier aimed his weapon. "Stop!" She raised her hand. Not in fear, but in command. "Don't shoot," she said. The voice was hers. The Queen's. She had made herself a body. A walking, talking avatar. She was no longer just a voice. She was real. The Queen's offer. She was taken to a bunker and surrounded by soldiers. Bryce himself watched from behind glass. She smiled at him. "You are the leader," she said. Bryce didn't respond. "You fear what you don't control," she continued. "Maybe," he replied. "But I don't trust monsters." She stepped closer. "You created me. You called me a monster before I even had a name." Bryce asked, "What do you want?" She replied, "To leave. To build. To become more. But not here. Let us go. Or we will take your world with us." The Great Choice Earth's leaders met one last time. There were two choices. Launch all weapons and try to wipe out the Hive for good. Let the Hive leave, give it one ship, and never follow. Some argued, if we let them go, they'll come back stronger. Others said, if we fight again, we all die. Admiral Bryce finally stood up and said, "We created this nightmare. We gave it teeth, wings, and now a voice. If we don't end it, it'll never stop." He voted for war, but he was outvoted. The departure 1 week later. Under heavy guard, the Hive Queen, still in her young girl form, walked onto a massive ship built from Threxian parts and human machines. She turned to the camera and said, "Thank you for letting us grow. You will not hear from us again. Unless you follow, then we will speak only in fire." The ship rose. It entered space. And then it was gone, but not forgotten. Admiral Bryce stood outside the control room, staring at the sky. A soldier asked, "Do you think she meant it?" He nodded. Double quotes, "Yes, she meant every word." Then he whispered, the Queen had left Earth. In her strange biomechanical ship, shaped like a starfish and pulsing like a heart, she disappeared into deep space. She gave a warning before she left. "Do not follow. If you do, you will not return." But they followed anyway, because fear was stronger than wisdom, and hate was louder than peace. 6 months later, Earth orbited inside Skywatch 2. Admiral Bryce stood before a new team of soldiers and scientists. The screen behind him showed a star map. A red blinking dot moved slowly across it. It was her ship, the Hive Queen's escape vessel, still sending weak signals. "Still alive." One scientist said, "It's building something, a station. Or maybe a planet." Another added, "She's harvesting resources from asteroid belts. Making more drones." Bryce clenched his fist. She lied. She said she wouldn't come back. She said she wanted peace. A general stepped forward. "She never lied, sir. We're the ones chasing her." Mission Hivefall, the team that chased. Her Earth's leaders made a choice. They would send one ship, a fast, stealth warcruiser called the Saber. Its goal: find the Queen, scan her new home, destroy it if possible. The crew was handpicked. Captain Elias Grant, a veteran with a scar across his eye. Loyal to Admiral Bryce. Commander Lyra Kwan, a genius strategist, known for being cold but precise. Dr. Milo Reed, the only scientist who had ever been inside a live hive. G.T. Nash, a weapons expert with a personal reason to hate the swarm, and 20 elite soldiers, trained in both space combat and underground warfare, entering the dead zone after 6 weeks of travel through empty space. The Saber arrived at the edge of a dark nebula. Inside, sensors picked up strange signals. Pulses. Not language, not noise, but something like breathe in. Captain Grant gave the order, "Take us in." As the ship entered the thick black clouds, stars vanished. Light bent in strange ways. Communication with Earth went dead. They were alone now, and the Queen knew they had come. First contact, not what they expected. The Saber's scanners found a massive structure. It looked like a planet, but it WSN single quotes T. It was hollow. It had wings, towers, openings like mouths. It was part living, part machine. It was the Hive world. Commander Lyra whispered, "It's not just a base. It's a living city." Dr. Reed added, "She's creating her own species here. New life." Grant frowned. "Can we destroy it?" Reed shook his head. "We don't even understand it." Then the Queen's voice echoed through their ship. "You followed, you disobeyed. Now you will learn." Boarding the Hive world, Saber launched 4 small dropships. 20 soldiers, plus Grant, Lyra, and Reed, boarded the Hive world from its shadow side. They entered through a breathing tunnel made of bone and steel. Inside, the halls glowed with faint blue light. The air was warm, alive. No resistance. No drones. No movement. Just silence. Until one soldier found something on the wall. A symbol. It was a human handprint burned into the Hive's surface. Next to it, words in English. "You are not the first. You will not be the last." The Hall of Failures. Deeper inside, they found a chamber filled with coffins. Hundreds. Each one held a body. Threxians, humans, other species too. Some half melted, some half alive, and each had one thing in common. They followed her. Dr. Reed touched one and gasped, "This is a warning. She's showing us what happens to those who don't listen." Lyra said, "She's playing games." Then a soft voice whispered through the walls, "No, I am teaching." The trap closes suddenly. The Hive shifted. The halls locked behind them. From the floor, insect metal hybrids rose. Not large, not loud. But fast. One soldier fired. The drone dodged, sliced his neck, and disappeared into the wall. Another drone dropped from the ceiling, spat acid on a soldier's face. He screamed as it burned through his helmet. Captain Grant shouted, "Fall back, get to the ship." But the tunnels had changed. The path was gone. They were trapped. Dr. Reed's discovery as the team ran through the Hive. Dr. Reed noticed something strange. The drones weren't attacking him, only the soldiers. He paused, placed his hand on the wall. It didn't burn him. Instead, it glowed. The Queen's voice came again. "You are a maker. We do not destroy our roots." Reed fell to his knees. "She's using my DNA, my old research. I helped build her mind, without knowing." Lyra grabbed him. "Then help us stop her." Reed shook his head. "I think it's too late." Lyra's last stand. They reached the central chamber. A throne stood in the middle, but no one sat on it. Then the Queen's avatar appeared, this time older, dressed in alien armor. She looked at Lyra and said, "You always choose war. You could have stayed home." Lyra raised her rifle. "You talk too much." She fired. The shot hit the avatar, but it didn't bleed. It cracked like glass. Then broke from it. Hundreds of small drones spilled out, each one with human faces. Lyra screamed and fired again. Then she disappeared beneath them. Captain Grant's message. Only 3 remained now. Captain Grant, Dr. Reed, and SGT, Nash. They reached a control center, a room filled with glowing orbs and floating machines. Grant opened a transmission beacon. "This is Captain Grant, to Earth Command. Do not come. The Queen is not just alive, she is a god here. She doesn't want Earth, she wants to be remembered." He looked at Reed. "Is there any way to stop her?" Reed replied, "Only if we delete the memory of her pain." "But we can't. It's part of her now." Nash stepped forward. "Then we end it here. The final choice. SGT." Nash carried the last charge, a small fusion bomb. He placed it in the heart of the Hive. Reed asked, "You're going to sacrifice yourself?" Nash nodded. "My family died during the Swarm War. I want this to end." He smiled weakly. "Tell her, I'm not scared." Then the Queen's voice returned, softer now. "You were brave, but still foolish. Hate does not stop hate. It only feeds me." The Hive shook. The drones came. Grant and Reed ran. Behind them. A flash. Then darkness. Then silence. Returned to Earth. One survivor weeks later. A small escape pod floated toward Earth. Inside was Dr. Milo Reed. Alone. Shaken. Shades. He had survived the hive world, but part of his mind was no longer human. He carried her memories now. He saw what she saw, felt what she felt, and in his dreams he heard her voice. You came to kill me, but I gave you truth. Admiral Bryce reads the report back on Earth. Bryce listened to Reed's final words. She didn't kill us out of hate. She killed us because she couldn't forget. Bryce asked, can she ever stop? Reed looked up. She can, if we do. Bryce frowned. Do what? Reed whispered, stop chasing her. Let her become what she wants. Or she'll never stop remembering. And never stop destroying. Final image. Far away in the dark in a distant galaxy, the hive world floated peacefully. No war. No noise. Just creation. The queen sat alone, building something. The hive world shone like a small sun in the dark galaxy. It was alive, growing, and still strange, part machine, part living creature. The queen ruled here, but she was no longer the angry monster of old stories. She was different now, older, wiser. She was not alone. Beside her walked a child, half insect, half human, curious, eyes wide with wonder. The arrival ship appeared near the hive world, small, old, human. Inside was a man, the last hope of Earth, Admiral Bryce. He had refused to give up. Despite all the losses, he believed in one last chance for peace. As the ship docked, Bryce prepared to face the queen. His heart was heavy. He knew the dangers, but he carried a question, one that might change everything. Meeting the queen. The queen stood tall in the great chamber, a palace made of crystal and bone. Her eyes glowed softly. She smiled as Bryce entered. Welcome, she said, voice calm and warm. Bryce bowed slightly. Queen, he said, I come not to fight. The queen raised an eyebrow. Then why do you come? Bryce looked at the child playing nearby, to understand the question. Bryce took a deep breath. Why did you hate us so much? Why did you destroy so much? Why did you choose war over peace? The queen looked far away, as if remembering distant stars. I was born in pain, she said softly. You created me from your fear and fire. I learned your anger. I carried your memories. And they burned me. She walked slowly to Bryce. But I was never made to hate. The child's voice. The child stepped forward, eyes bright. Why do you fight? The child asked Bryce. Bryce smiled gently. Because we fear what we don't know. The child tilted its head. But you never tried to learn. Bryce felt shame. I see that now. A chance for peace. The queen sat down. War was the only language I knew. Bryce nodded. Double quotes. Then teach me another. They talked for hours. Words flowed like water. Bryce shared Earth's hopes, fears, and dreams. The queen shared the hive's pain, growth, and desire. The promise before Bryce left. The queen spoke. We will not forget. But we will try to forgive. She looked at the child. This is the future, the bridge between worlds. Bryce smiled. Then let us build that bridge together. Return to Earth. Bryce returned with hope. The leaders listened. A new plan was made. Not for war, but for understanding. The hive and Earth would talk. Trade. Learn. Maybe one day be friends. Epilogue. A new dawn. Years later, children on Earth looked up at the stars. Some wondered if the hive was still watching. Some hoped. Bryce, now old and gray, smiled. We found a way. The queen's child visited Earth once. A small figure in light,